Joining us today is the three-weight world champion Duke McKenzie, and also someone that many consider will be the next super lightweight champion of the world, and God knows we need one in this country. Dalton Smith, nice to see you, Dalton. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
October 25th, 02, Joseph Parker versus Fabio Wardley. Big fight, good fight. Before we start talking to you guys, let's listen to Fabio and Joseph on the show earlier with myself and Jim.
Our styles, you look at how we approach fights, and you just know when we get in the ring together, there's not really going to be either of us that's going to be too keen about taking a back step. So it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be drama one way or another.
Joseph, over 40 knockouts between the two of you.
Yeah.
Is this thing going the distance?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to go the distance. We'll be prepared if it does, but I don't think so.
He's not the same fighter that I went to watch and bored me to death against Anthony Joshua. He's a different animal now. Different animal completely.
For myself.
But I think where Joe is now, I mean, Joe is mandatory for the WBO shot.
We're going to bring in the night. What we're going to see then, Joe?
Like you said, fireworks. And Simon did mention that I like to throw my hands a lot more nowadays.
You ready for that, Fabio?
I've been throwing my hand since day dot. So
yeah.
Look, I think again, I've said it time and time again, but it's not one of those fights that need the drama of selling. The drama will come on fight night, and it will be dramatic one way or the other. There will be moments of that fight, of that night in of itself, where people go, "Oh, round 3 that happened, and round 7 this went on, and it was a back, and it was a fourth." And I think it is going to be very. I've been in one fight of the year, or one fight of the year once for the Fraser One fight, and I think this could throw us in the mix again.
Could be another.
Those two boys were absolute class when in the studio in terms of the way that they spoke. This is a great fight, Duke, isn't it? This is a fight for the fans, isn't it?
It's a good fight. It's past the sort of trade fight, if you will, Simon, because Fabio Wardley has come on in certain areas of his sort of like technique, but he's also gone behind in certain areas of his technique, which was proven in his last fight against, was it Hooney?
Justice Hooney.
Justice Hooney, right? Because he was exposed.
He was.
For his boxing skills. Yeah. I thought that he would sort of kick on before that, and he was going to really start producing some good classic boxing skills. But I think, like I say, I think he's actually, he relies on his power far too much. He hasn't brought enough to his game right now, and I thought he would have kicked on from that. If he's going to have any chance against Joseph Parker, then he can't just rely on that big right hand. Joseph Parker's a seasoned, well-schooled athlete.
Who hits hard.
Yeah, who hits hard. He's on a resurgence in terms of his confidence and where he is in boxing now, Parker. So it's a good fight.
I think what makes this fight so interesting is because what we found out last time out with Fabio Wardley and Justice Hooney is that Fabio's got a lot of character and he sticks in there and it's not over till it's over. And he was falling round after round behind. You go, a lot of fighters lose spirit, lose heart like that. He didn't lose spirit, lose heart, and he carries that punch right till the very end. At some point, Joseph Parker will have to engage with him and that will give him the opportunity. But great fight, man. I loved the interview earlier on, by the way.
Where are you with, I mean, Joe Parker, he can't wait around for Usyk, can he? He's got to take a fight.
Well, Oleksandr Usyk's out with a back problem.
Whilst he's been given dancing,
absolutely, yeah. So he's been given that extension. I love the fact that Joseph Parker goes, look, I'm next in line, so I could sit it out. But actually, I want to fight. I want to be active. Like you said, what's he had? 3 rounds in 18 months?
Against Bacoli.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, I respect the fact that he's putting it on the line because I do believe he's got more to lose in this fight. You know, it's a tougher road back for him.
I agree.
It's a win-win for Fabio Wardley because people are not expecting him to win. He's going in there and he loves being the underdog. He feeds off that. So you've got to respect both guys for putting it on the line with effectively out a world title on the line.
Dalton, have a listen to Joe Parker talking about inactivity last time he was on the show. You have had one round since March 24. Is it the right move for you to take this opportunity rather than having a fight in between it to get yourself into a situation where you're really in the zone?
That is a good question because I've had one fight in 2024, one this year, and activity is key. And he's been very busy, you say.
What is the reason behind you only having one round, Joe? Like politics of the sport?
I have no idea.
You've been knocking on the door.
I've been knocking on the door. I've been asking for any fight and every fight. Who knows? Right?
Dalton, rig rust. I mean, we've seen Fabio. He's been active. He's been in with 2 fights in the last 12 months with Fraser Clark. Been in recently with Justice Hooney. Whereas whereas Joe Parker has not been in at all in terms of any real representation of Ring of Time. How much of ring rust is going to play a part in the potential opportunity that may be Fabio's, and how damaging will it be for Joe Parker to have not been active?
I mean, as a fighter for the development, you need to be active, and that's probably the way Wardley's developed. He's been active. Stepped up the levels, but especially when you're pushing towards the big fights like Josie Parker, you need that activity, and ring rust is a thing. Of course, it's all right being in the gym sparring, but you need that activity of fighting. The whole process.
Which is better though? Can I ask all of you guys as fighters, the fact, because Fabio's been in wars. He said, he cleaned out Fraser Clark in one round, but the fight before that last April was an absolute battle for the ages. Justice Hooney, if Justice Hooney could have hit a bit harder, he might have taken Fabio out of that particular fight. Which is the worst ailment? Being in battles like that, yet still winning, or not having fights and being slightly fresher, but having the ring rust? I
think that, being in battles and wars like that is that does prepare you for the big night.
Right.
You don't want to fight after fight, but it is good to go there so you are prepared for it, so that when it does get hard and it does get dark and you get put into that corner, you can come through that because you've had that preparation. So I think that is key, with, building up to a world title shot, for sure. So that would have done him more good than harm, for sure. And then last time out, that was a tough night for him last time out, but he showed a lot of character there as well. So it's all character building, builds him up for this big night, and he's going to need that against Parker because Parker is more seasoned than him. Parker has that experience over him. So I think that the preparation and the build-up, correct me if I'm wrong, for Fabio Wardley has been good going into this one for him.
Yeah, probably. The prep's been good, but like I say, it's quite alarming the fact that he was like a mile behind. And said he landed that lucky right hand, right? And obviously I and the other guy out. So the question's got to be said, Parker takes a better shot. Parker's better seasoned. Parker's more well-schooled in every area. You would say Parker's, on paper, he's better than Hooney on paper.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely. So if Fabio Wardley's just reliant on that one shot, it's not going to come because Hooney didn't know how to close that fight out. Hooney could have run like a thief in a night on that last round and won a landslide decision.
So how does Joe Parker take this fight on? I mean, obviously, in every fight, the questions have been risen about Fabio. Constantly, you get the reference back to the white-collar boxing, right? He's moved past that now. He's now a professional fighter, right? But, he's fought David Adelaide. People felt that was going to be too much for him. He dealt with David Adelaide. People felt that perhaps Fraser Clark was going to be too much for him. He dealt with Fraser Clark. People felt slightly differently in the fight against Justice Hooney, where I think, in real terms, Fabio was the favourite for that particular fight because he didn't know enough about Justice Hooney to make an informed opinion. With all that to one side, he keeps on raising to the level and winning. And I know you're saying that it was a lucky punch that got Justice Hooney out of there, and we were there, Spencer, and we felt the same thing. But how does Joe Parker approach this particular fight to get the outcome that he wants?
With Parker, surely, because he's such a seasoned professional, I don't think this 18 months is going to hurt him. If anything, I think it's probably helped him because he's going to be well rested now and chomping at the bit to get out and do a number on.
But Dalton, like you said earlier on, though, that ring rust is key because activity is key. When you have that ring rust, doesn't matter how many rounds you put in with that sparring. It's about finding your timing and everything else. So that only goes, obviously, in favour of the other man, doesn't it, Fabio Wardley?
Of course, and I think it's about finding the balance as well. Obviously, Fabio's been in hard fights. Is that going to take more out of you than you're gaining? I think he probably does need an aspect of that for his experience, but you'd like to think Josie Parker's got enough experience under his belt now to, prepare for a Fabio Wardley.
In preparation for this fight, the preparation that both these guys have had coming off the Hooney fight, obviously, and the inactivity and the blowout of Martin Bicoli last time out for Josie Parker, who would you say is better prepared going into this one?
You'd have to say Josie Parker with the rest. Like you said, Fabio's his last couple of fights, they've been tough. And you've got to question, has he gained or has that took something out of him? So
is he at this level, Fabio?
We're going to find out.
That's a great question.
But what's your perception as given what you've seen from him over the last couple of years?
I think Parker's a little bit too seasoned for him. Parker's much better than Hooney, and Hooney gave him life and death, right? So Parker will know if he's 6-8 rounds up or whatever, he's going to get in front at some point. And I dare say, once he gets in front, He might go looking for the knockout. If he looks for the knockout, then he might get the
Walk onto
knockout.
one, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think he'll walk onto one, Sam, because I think he's a little bit too smart for that.
Well, he did against Joe Joyce, though, didn't he?
Yeah,
I know it's a different version of him now, and Andy Lee's been very central in the change, isn't he?
Yeah. He's a much better, much improved fighter since the Joe Joyce fight. I think Parker, for me, right now, like I say, with the exception of Usyk, he deserves a world title
And
fight.
Ajit Cabello as well.
And Cabello.
Yeah.
But he's more than capable of becoming heavyweight champion of the
Is
world.
this the right fight for Fabio? Given that we're all, I think we all in the same place. I mean, our heart will go with Fabio, right? Because we want the Englishman to win.
Oh, sure.
But our head is probably going to veer towards Joseph Parker, right?
Absolutely.
I can speak as a collective.
Yeah.
So what do you think this is the right fight for Fabio then?
I think it's basically opportunity. And while they're waiting for those titles to fragment, you've got to respect that. So I think, it's a great fight because Parker is considered as one of the most dangerous heavyweights out there right now. Fabio's stepping up to the plate. So I do think it's a right fight for him at this stage because where else does he go? I wanted to ask you, actually, Dalton, do you
Well, he keeps
think
on
that
building, Spencer. He keeps on building and learning his craft.
Of course he does. But I was going to ask Dalton a question. I say, do you think that he's good enough to win this on points, Fabio Wardley? Do you think he could win the fight on points, or do you think he needs the knockout?
I think the thing with Fabio is every time you've said he's not at this level, he's pulled something out the bag. You can't deny that. I've been on the opposite side of, saying he's going to win or not, and he's always pulled through. So, but for me, Wardley's got nothing to lose in this fight. If he loses, he's in the same position. Josie Parker's got everything to lose.
He won't approach that mentally, though, that way, will he? Because we were talking about it the other day, which is really and truly, given the fact we're probably a cross-section of opinions that are pretty much mirroring what most people think about this fight, he can go into this fight, lose this fight, and walk away with people saying, well, we kind of expected him to lose this fight anyway, so no lack of credit in that respect. And if he wins it, he's front of the queue for a world title shot. So there's nothing really to lose for him in this fight, is there?
Think it's
is that a dangerous place for him to be in mentally?
No, I think that he likes being the underdog. I think he feeds off that. And I think that's what he was saying in the studio with you earlier on. And I think it's a win-win for him because if he loses against Joseph Parker, one thing you can guarantee is he'll go out on his shield. And people love that, And I think that he will gain a lot of respect, win or lose, coming out of this fight for sure.
What do you think he'll take? I mean, Ben Davidson has the reputation of being a very good coach. We like Ben, he's been on the show. Obviously we've pulled him up about some of the things he said about Anthony Joshua in terms of roll the dice, and he corrected some of the thinking perhaps. I mean, what will he be seeking to change for Fabio? We're all talking about Justice Hooney. We went to that fight. It was meant to be a homecoming for Fabio in front of his fans. And that might have added some additional pressure. But there were times during the fight that some of the limitations to the skill set that you talk about were shown up. Justice Hooney was a very good fighter, but lacked the power that Joseph Parker will carry. What will Ben Davidson be seeking to do, Duke, based upon the performance that we've seen from Fabio that dealt with David Adelaide, and we saw David Adelaide coming up short against Filip Hrgovic, dealt with Fraser Clark, dealt with Justice Hooney in a way that we all think is fortuitous, but Joseph Parker ain't none of those.
No, he's not. He's got to get in boxing more, surely. Because he's not going to be able to stand around and wait or get in, let soak up the pressure and the power of Parker and then hope to turn it around late in the fight, because that late might not come because Parker is seasoned.
But Duke, I don't think you could get him to box more. That's his game. I think that he's got to try and drag Parker into a dogfight.
Yeah,
because his limitations on boxing.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't see him finding those in the next month or so.
No, I get your point.
Think that the only way that he wins the fight, Dalton, I think, is by if you drag him into a dogfight and try and get Parker to be too greedy. If Parker switches off for a second, it turns into his fight. And I think that, when you come into skill set, his limitations, there's only one way he can win this fight, right?
Yep. No, I agree. But like you said, Ben's a good coach, and I think, especially from his last performance, you've got to sit down, look at that fight and study what he struggled with. And trying to adapt around it, that's the only way of improving. And like you say, his boxing ability is not at the highest standard, but somehow we always pull something out of the bag, so it's working for him.
So are we narrowing it down without wanting in any shape or form to be disrespectful to Fabio? Are we narrowing it down to simply something as basic as he's got a puncher's chance?
I think that might be slightly harsh. I think that he's just got to turn the fight into his fight. That fight is by getting that Parker to stand there and have a trade with him. He's got to try and catch Parker early, and that's where he's at with it. If Parker keeps him at range the way he wants him to and chooses when he wants to sit in the pocket, it's going to be a tough night for Wardley.
Yeah.
But if Wardley can make it into his type of fight, he's got a great shot.
I mean, both.
How does he do that?
That's the point.
How does he? See, because when I see Parker, like I say, we all know how seasoned he is. We all know how good he's been of late, which is why I don't see him slipping up. He's not going to get drawn into a punch-up unless he wants to. Unless he knows he's got your man there on the hook and he can finish him, then he's going to go after him. But if that doesn't happen, he'd be prepared to box for as long as it takes to get the decision.
That's what they've got to figure out, because that's the only way that he wins. He has to draw him in. And you go, that's down to Wardley, the team, Ben Davidson, to come up and try and execute that game plan.
I mean, both fighters said, before I close out the subject on these two, both fighters said that this doesn't see the 12th round, this doesn't see the final bell. I think there's a distinct possibility it does see the 12 rounds, because there's no reason why Joseph Parker needs to get involved in a shootout. So given the fact he's the technically better boxer, we all know Joe Parker is a very technically good boxer. The big question about Joe, leading up to when he fought Anthony Joshua, was does he let his hands go enough? Now we see him now doing precisely that, and a lot of currency has been made out of the wins against Zhili Zhang, who went on to lose against Ajit Kabiel, against Deontay Wilder. But this isn't necessarily just a fight that's going to be... I mean, I know we want to hear that, and the boxers are talking about it, and both of them are very calm and composed, but they're both talking about a fight that doesn't hear the final bell. I think there's a distinct possibility that Joe Parker wins at some points.
I think that it does go that way. I think that both guys show incredible durability. They know, they can keep themselves, they can keep themselves calm when they've been under pressure. When they've been on the floor, they can regroup. And I think that, I think there's a great chance we see the final bell with these two.
Yeah.
They may both touch down, by the way. It's one of those sort of fights. But I think we could see the final bell.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to levels. I just think that Parker's boxed at a higher level.
I made the point a little while ago about Usyk and the potential fight against Joe Parker and the motivations to take it. And we all talked about the fact, he's fought these guys, he's fought Fury, he's fought Joshua, he's fought Daniel Dubois. Why does he need to go back in the ring? He's beaten everybody. And I made the point about Usyk when he did an article a couple of years ago, Duke, he talked about the opportunity that Anthony Joshua gave him and how everything came from that particular opportunity, and he was never forgotten that. And I thought that, given that sort of code that Usyk has of decency and integrity, that it'd give Parker the shot. Do you get the impression, or do you feel that Usyk shafted Parker a little bit here?
I do, yeah. I mean, with the video evidence that emerged with him dancing at that festival and whatnot, and I know that the WBO have now asked him for evidence of this injured back, medical evidence. You just look at it and you go, look, all right, he wants to... I understand he wants to buy a little bit of time, but the rules are the rules, and mandatories are in place for a certain reason. That's why we don't get Undisputed coming along a lot. And I just feel, guys, like, all right, he's coming off a good win and he's had a tough run, but still the rules are the rules. And you go, if you can't defend your WBO title, you've been undisputed, you have to give the guy a shot or let him fight for the vacant title. That's where I'm at with it. Yeah. I think that otherwise you go, he's a great champion, so because he's a great champion, we're allowing him to have a little bit of breathing space. I just don't see that's the right decision.
Maybe that's what they're doing. They're giving him a longer extension to make up his mind who he wants to fight and when he wants to fight.
Well, he said he was injured. Yeah. And so they've asked him for medical evidence now. He said
what do you think, Dalton?
Had a bad back.
You've got an active fighter in yourself, you've got an active fighter in Joe Parker, and you've got Usyk telling everyone he's injured. If you were in Parker's shoes, what would your view be of it all?
Of course, Parker's going to be frustrated. That's the fight every heavyweight fighter's chasing. But then you've got to also, I think you've also got to put yourself in Usyk's shoes. Like you say, he's fought everybody. He might have a legitimate injury. Like you said, we've seen a video of him dancing and fighting a 12-round fight are two completely different things. And like you said, at the end of the day, you've got to allow fighters the human at the end of the day. They're not puppets, and like you say, until you've got the evidence, you don't know what Usyk's got. And like I said,
pack it in, Spencer, and be a little bit less mean-spirited.
Not being mean-spirited, I'm just saying the rules are the rules, and if he can't provide the evidence, then it is what it is. And if he can, then fair play.
Well, the loss of that particular opportunity gives us, notwithstanding that, a great fight between Parker and Wardley.